The world's factory, China, has been in lockdown since early February, with factory output barely reaching 15% of capacity. That has already seen tech stocks heavily reliant on Chinese factory output, such as Amazon, Apple, Samsung and Nvidia, take a major hit on their stock prices. And if that was not bad enough, other major semiconductor production hubs such as South Korea, Taiwan and Japan are starting to take a hit. That likely lag where China is today by about 5 or 6 weeks in terms of factory output, which means to expect an imminent supply shock as warehouse stocks start to run dry, resulting in huge across the board price hikes in your favorite tech. So if you've been planning on purchasing any tech items, be it an Apple or Samsung smartphone, computer components such as a new Nvidia graphics card, or maybe a Ryzen 3950X processor based system, or any other item that you've had your eye on but have delayed purchasing, then the time to act is now, as you probably only have a short window of no more than a week or so before prices start to rocket, soon followed by the out of stock messaging as warehouses run out of stock and await shipment from Asia. And South Korea is a good illustration of why this virus is so deadly in terms of economic activity that effectively brings daily commercial and manufacturing life to a standstill. As the nation's coronavirus cases continue to rocket ever higher, now totaling nearly 3,000 infected and resulting in 17 deaths. This despite deploying immense resources towards containment. Meanwhile, the basket case north of the border, with far greater cross-border travel with China, apparently has 0 cases, whilst reports continue of mass cremations taking place. Therefore, given the reliability of South Korea's monitoring and systems, then the outbreak in this nation is likely more accurately reflects what to expect in terms of outbreaks in the UK and the rest of the West than China's statistics that everyone now agrees have grossly underreported the true number of infections and deaths by several magnitudes. In fact, China's statistics are modelled on an outbreak starting mid-January rather than early December. And thus my recent in-depth analysis concluded that Chinese reported cases are likely underreported by at least times 7 and deaths by times 2. So reliable South Korean data warns of literally exponential spread of the virus in the early days of outbreaks, where R0 rather than being 2.6 has been the consensus view. Instead, South Korean data calculates R0 at 4.6. Literally explosive growth in the number of infections before a nation's healthcare system is able to respond. This explosive early growth is likely as a consequence that those infected can be asymptomatic for between 3 and 7 days, and a few super spreaders for as many as 14 days, who unbeknown are literally infecting dozens of people per day, who themselves go on to infect many others. South Korea's data shows an initial explosive growth starting on the 19th of February. So 20 new cases, i.e. a new outbreak, were testing positive. Next day the number more than doubled to 53 as the authorities desperately attempted to track down contacts, doubling again on the 21st to 100 and again on the 22nd, and only really slowing by day 5 as huge deployment of resources, including shutting down a whole city, succeeded in halting the doubling of numbers every 24 hours. But by then it tends to become too late to halt ever expanding numbers of infected, as the 27th and 28th of February data illustrates. Though South Korea is the model for the expected pattern of spread, explosive growth that only slows when extreme actions are taken to shut down the movement of people within infected areas. So folks, don't be lulled into any false sense of complacency, because the initial outbreaks are explosive. The number of infected can literally go from 0 to 1,000 in less than 5 days. And that is with an effective response to outbreaks to contain the rate of expansion of infected numbers. Another example of which we are already witnessing take place is in Italy, which is experiencing a similar pattern of explosive growth soon following the detection of coronavirus in a few small towns in northern Italy. If developed nations such as Italy and South Korea can barely manage to control outbreaks, then imagine what is likely to take place in nations without robust healthcare and emergency response systems, and or having political systems unable to respond to outbreaks in a timely manner. Case point being Iran. Iran both lacks the health infrastructure and systems to respond to coronavirus outbreaks, hence the disaster we are witnessing unfold, where likely several thousand are now infected, many hundreds have died, all whilst the totalitarian state reports just 245 infected and 26 deaths, which if accurate would imply a case fatality rate of 10%. And Iran is far from being considered the worst able to respond to the virus. To that we turn to Africa, that likely already has uncontrolled outbreaks underway that will only make the light of day when the body bags start piling up in the hundreds. Coronavirus pandemic outside China update. Whilst China's infection numbers cannot be trusted, meanwhile the developed world's numbers should prove more accurate, at least in the early stages of the pandemic, though we still have two gaping holes on the world map, i.e. Africa and Central and South America. To imagine that there's just one infection in Egypt and one in Brazil is delusional, given the comings and goings of upwards of 1 million Chinese workers across those continents. Instead, the infected number in Africa and South America already likely runs into at least several hundreds, if not thousands, that as of yet remain unrecorded. So expect sharp spike in numbers at some point when the degree of infection is acknowledged. And so despite lack of recording of African and the Americas numbers, the number of infections is literally going parabolic, soaring by over 1,000 overnight to 5,359, to well above my trend forecast that totals 129,250 infections by the end of March. Coronavirus including China update. So here's my forecast for the total number of infections and deaths by the 28th of February versus reported and estimated. And I'll be doing an update forecast for March and April in the next few days. And finally, UK coronavirus trend forecast day 32 update. The total number of infections recorded in the UK has started to increase on a daily basis and now includes the first case of a person being infected who cannot be linked to any one of the growing outbreak hotspots across the world, i.e. community transmission. So the fact that the UK only has 20 cases does not alter the fact that the UK is still in the calm before the coronavirus storm stage, as my forecast of 14th February concluded in the infected to trend to 5,000 by the end of March. That would result in about 90 deaths. Analysis of what is happening in South Korea illustrates that outbreaks tend to be explosive, soon jumping from 1 to 1,000 in a matter of days, which is likely the pattern to expect in the UK and elsewhere, that I'm sure will prompt emergency, even panic responses such as cancellation of virtually all public events, schools, universities and colleges being closed, and infected hotspots being quarantined, all likely to start taking place by mid-March, as I first warned to expect to happen over 2 weeks ago, where Britain's schools could remain closed until September. That's 6 months. The bottom line is that most Western nations are still in the calm before the coronavirus storm stage, where outbreaks could spread nearer to R5 than the oft mentioned R2.6, at least for the first few days of an outbreak, which means the UK having just 20 managed cases is nothing to get complacent about, for there will be outbreaks in the UK that will be just as bad as in South Korea, and closer still is Italy. It is only a matter of time that should not be wasted but rather utilised to prepare for, especially given the fact that the NHS has only spare capacity for 400 critically ill patients that could number 1,000 by the end of March alone, let alone being able to cope with that which will follow in April and May. Stock market trend implications. My stock market analysis and trend forecast based on my coronavirus analysis since late January was first made available to patrons who support my work. I basically want to expect this decline on the 9th of February, whilst my latest update of what to expect has again first been made available to patrons who support my work, i.e. the coronavirus stocks bear market begins and when will it end. So for immediate first access to all of my analysis and trend forecasts, then do consider becoming a patron by supporting my work for just $3 per month. Also ensure you subscribe to this YouTube channel for future updates on the unfolding coronavirus pandemic. And remember folks, we are only at the beginning of this pandemic that could rage for the whole of 2020.
To not get virus.
59p, that's cheap.
And 200.
Get more.
How many?
Only 59p will stop the virus. Vitamin C.
Holding a lot.
Big ones there.
Let's get the big one over there.
Come on, Liza. What else? Tangerines, man. Yeah. One. Yeah, get them. Only 59p. That is cheap though.
I can
Less than half price.
I can touch 20.
What else should we get? Stop the virus. Lemons. Oh look, that one's infected with something.
Get. What's that? This one. What should we get? More oranges.
Even more oranges.
Take all the oranges.
Go on then. Put it in.
Okay. Yeah.
That's it. Put it in. Put it in the trolley then.
Okay. One more. Look. Guys.
Plenty of oranges. I don't think we're going to be able to eat all that. Potassium in bananas. None left.
Nuts are good to stop to get a virus.
Yeah,
Look,
nuts.
5 nuts. Wow.
Lots of nutrition in nuts, fatty acids.
Hey.
2 for 150, that's cheap. There's not much in them. What's in it? How many? 55 grams, that's nothing. Put them back. 55 grams, that's 150 for 110 grams. It's not cheap.
I think it is.
Even though they're half price, they're not cheap, but at least they'll help stop getting the coronavirus. Which nuts do you want? Liza? Which nuts do you want? To stop getting the virus.
Ooh, popcorn.
Oh, mixed nuts. These might be cheap, there's a lot of volume in them.
will get a virus.
Sweets?
Yeah.
I don't think they'll help you. Pick and mix, anti-coronavirus pick and mix. Oh, leave them, get some sweets from here. It's cheaper.
There'll be virus on the cash point, so wash your hands.
Yes, if you're going to use cash machine, then remember to wash your hands afterwards, so you don't get infected off the keypad.
I know your card is
Cash, right, quiet. Cash withdrawal. And now other 200. Oh, I'm infected. Ah. Yeah. This is correct. Like a seat. I got the virus on my hand. I'm gonna have to wash my hand. Don't touch your mouth. Don't touch people's faces or mouths or nose. Otherwise you'll get infected. So where's my money then? Oh yeah, the money's going to be infected as well. You're going to have to wash your money. So all this money's going to have virus on it. Yeah. Now you're infected. You're all infected now. The money's got coronavirus on it. No, I'm not touching that money. I'm not touching that money. It's got coronavirus all over it. What are you doing? You're infected. You have to wash the money first. You have to wash it before you can use it, you stupid. You have to wash it. Good hand hygiene to prevent getting the coronavirus. Remember to wash the money before you use it, and wash your hand and don't touch your face.
Yes. She's greeting it.